The fleet returned to Earth space in 2233 after a long victory tour of the League. It had been reduced to less than a third of its original strength. Hundreds of ships had been destroyed, while other still functional vessels had proved themselves inadequate to the demands of modern warfare. Still, the Navy had learned a great deal about space combat, while salvaged ships from the Dilgar and League fleets brought new technologies to Earth Force R&D. The EF's crews were broken up and reassigned all over the fleet, so the techniques learned during the Long War were spread to the rest of Earth Force. A new generation of officers experienced in dealing with alien races and long-term space travel rose up, drawn from the veterans of the Dilgar War. During the war, the Alliance also developed and deployed the Starfury Nova, a craft made possible through the direct application of technology taken from captured Dilgar Thorons. This fighter proved only a stepping stone to the more powerful and capable Aurora-class Starfury, redevelopment of the old Nova that incorporated Dilgar-designed stabilizers and combat software which remains in service today. The other great prize of the war was pulse cannon technology, which quickly became one of the primary weapons used by many Alliance designs. Although the Starfury Nova was quickly obsolete and removed from the inventory, its name continues to live on in the Nova Dreadnought, a powerful gunship introduced in the prototype from during the war and later fitted with combined laser/pulse weapons. Few ships of the era could stand up to a ship of this level of firepower in a head-to-head shooting match. In addition to the positive effects on Earth's morale, total victory over the Dilgar also provided huge technological advantages. The Dilgar possessed weapons of a type never before seen, among them bolter and pulsar guns capable of operating not only in offensive ship-killing mode, but equally well as anti-fighter defense systems. These weapons led directly to the invention of the first pulse cannon by Earth Force in 2240, and corresponding improvements to ship designs like the Hyperion, Olympus, Artemis, Tethys, and Sagittarius. Many of these classes getting improved sensor and fusion reactor upgrades that increased their speed and range. Orbital satellites and Orion space stations also benefited from new tech as well. Earth would also use these new technologies to construct the first Explorer-class ship. The first one, launched in 2243, were massive vessels, bigger than any other ship built before. While the Army had suffered only minor losses during the Dilgar War, Command decided to re-equip the ground forces with a new generation of tanks and ground vehicles. Ground attacks during the Dilgar War had suffered terrible logistic problems. The Army was still using vehicles drawn from the vehicle pools of the various nation-states that contributed troops, so different divisions used different and incompatible tank models. Shipping spare parts and supplies across tens of parsecs had proved extraordinarily difficult during the war, so the Army switched over to using a single basis chassis on which different mission-specific turrets could be mounted. The war also saw a massive increase in recruitment, as thousands of young men and women rushed to enlist to fight the Dilgar after seeing images and news reports of Dilgar atrocities on other worlds. By 2240, there were over 2,000 new Earth Force personnel in service for every single one who died fighting the Dilgar. The military grew faster than most politicians felt comfortable with, and soon pressure was put on the military to slow down its recruiting and weapon production to redistribute money and resources to the civilian population. The victory over the powerful Dilgar was indeed a time of great rejoicing. The Alliance had, over the course of only 70 years, gone from a nation just beginning its first interstellar forays into one powerful enough to fight and defeat an advanced force that had all but conquered over a dozen established races. In the process, they effectively established themselves as one of the dominant powers in the region, taking their rightful place alongside the Centauri and Narns and earning the respect of both races. Indeed, both the Republic and regime were resigned to making hollow accusations about how the other race had allowed an empire as horrible as the Dilgar to run rampant. Beyond mere technology, however, the Dilgar War had changed Earth Force forever. Earth had successfully intervened in the affairs of the galaxy, winning the respect of the League and putting themselves on a par with the two current great powers, the Narn and the Centauri. EarthGov's foreign policy began to change, becoming more open to more interventions and peacekeeping operations. New ship designs were tested in clashes with Drazi rebels, with raiders, during the hunt for the surviving Dilgar, and in dozens of minor police actions within and just outside the borders of the Alliance. The period following the Dilgar War is often looked upon as the golden age of Earth Alliance power and influence. The races of the League all but fell over themselves in the rush to thank and reward the valiant Terrans, who sacrificed so much to liberate alien races many light years from their own territory, and in some cases whom they had never even met. Generous treaties were formed with most of these appreciative nations, and the Alliance was quite helpful in reconstruction efforts when possible. Some of the more xenophobic nations feared the Terrans would attempt to occupy and hold some of their captured territory, but these fears proved groundless. Earthdome had no intention of hanging on to systems located so far from their own borders, turning over the responsibility of guarding Amelos to the League in 2233 and formally abandoning all their logistics stations over the next several years. Some of these facilities were scuttled, while others were purchased by League races or fell into the hands of one power or another. One forward logistics base, located in the Tirith system, became the headquarters of the Tirith Free State, one of the more civilized raider bands, who used it to set up an independent nation of their own. Earth's economy was not harmed by the Dilgar conflict, but in fact showed remarkable improvement. The need for a strong military had been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, and few citizens protested the replacement of lost units and concentration of effort on research and development. Exploration, which came virtually to a halt during the Dilgar invasion, resumed with a vengeance following the war. Earth's people were happy, its military was strong, and its reputation among the galactic powers was impeccable. The Alliance stood poised on the brink of true greatness. Spin-off technologies from the war and the reconstruction effort re-energized the sluggish Earth economy, which was then able to take advantage of the massive market offered by the League's rebuilding. Earth Force vessels were soon seen escorting massive trade convoys from Proxima and Earth, making their way to countless League worlds to help their rebuilding efforts and maintaining diplomatic relations. For many in the League, the Earth Alliance's goodwill and would end up being one-sided. By 2237, Earth Force had largely rebuilt the Navy, and the pressures of population and industrial demand for supplies called for a new phase of exploration. The first prototypes of the mighty Explorer-class vessels were built, and several Hyperions and Novas were given over to the newly formed Explorer Corps. Earth Force signed a new contract with salvage corporations like IPX, getting first refusal on any military technology uncovered by their efforts. Earth Force constructed a new network of hyperspace communications relays throughout the Alliance, linking distant outposts in near real-time communication with Earth. Logistics bases and defense satellites were constructed on dozens of worlds. As Earth Force pushed out, they encountered races such as the Pakma'are and Moradi, all of whom were cowed by the military might of the Alliance. The fleet seemed virtually invincible, with the Centauri in slow decline and the Narn locked in a fruitless Cold War with their old oppressors. The Earth Alliance seemed poised for ascendancy over known space. By 2245, the Earth Alliance had pushed far beyond its original borders and had eclipsed the still mighty Centauri Republic as the preeminent military and economic power of the known galaxy. The most notable clash of the period was the brief bug war of 2240, when the game decided to test the Alliance's resolve. A surprise attack was launched on Seti Gamma, and tens of thousands of game warriors flooded onto the planet. Gropo's teams reinforced the colonial defenses, and the game were beaten back. The aliens abandoned their defeated foot troops, and instead sent diplomats to sign a non-aggression pact with the Alliance. Earth Force intelligence suspect that the attack was a test that Earth had passed, although why the game chose such a risky method to engage humanity remains a mystery for the xenopsychologists. Following the end of the game attacks, Earth also had to deal with a small incursion by a race called the Sodon. This race was nomadic and came from the rimward edge of Earth space. The attacks lasted for several months, but ended after they moved towards what would soon be known as Minbari space. This conflict would be one of the main reasons Earth would send an expedition to the region that would have horrific consequences. But the war did have one unfortunate side effect, however. Earth's pride became swelled to the point where its leaders and military officers possessed an inflated view of their own abilities and strength. Despite warnings from the Centauri and other races, they saw themselves as capable of anything and deserving of a proper level of respect from everyone they met. They had not yet learned the lesson that, despite all their accomplishments and apparent power, they were as gnats before some of the technologically advanced races lurking out there in the galaxy. This was a lesson they would soon learn the hard way.